So today's topic, feeless future. Maybe that can be an option in the future. And we will discuss why fees are super important, or maybe something that is important for the adoption, but often is not considered yet at this stage of technical maturity. So first of all, maybe because a lot of people don't know Akkodis that well, it's more in the, I would say, in the background, solving problems that other companies are struggling with. But the name of the product is most or really often another brand product. So we're supporting other companies with our experts. And the main idea behind that is to, if you want to solve problems that no one solved yet or have like really tricky ones, you kind of need bright-minded people or talents that which are really hard to find actually. So the idea is to attract talents with cool, innovative projects, and then reskill them and upskill them to be able to tackle these problems of the future. And in general, we are quite big, so 50,000 digital experts and engineers, which is quite a thing. We have a global presence where we say, okay, we have 7 major industries we're currently represented, and where we push 7 different technologies which will lead or are a part of the future. So, and there we have the strategy which I already kind of mentioned, to build up talents and consult industries and build solutions. So that's maybe, I just don't want to talk too much about that, but yeah, kind of give you a better understanding who is Akkodis. And really often Akkodis is also kind of connected with the word smart industry, and because that's kind of the vision or spirit we have, is to combine research and development with IT and digital services. And in the middle of that, you kind of have the smart industry. So you are at the edge of the technology, and you design a smarter future. And now you maybe also understand why this DLT perfectly fits into this vision that we have, where we say, okay, how we can adopt or drive adoption from emerging technologies and push then the sustainable future, or build a sustainable future together. So, and for that we kind of need technologies like DLT, where it's permissionless, inclusive, and so the DLT topic is actually fitting pretty well in this DNA, and that's why we decided to invest in it and build up with the competences. And that's actually what we did for the last 2.5 years. We started with 3 guys like Javier, David, and me, and now we're around about 18, and actually currently also in talks with Australia, who are really also interested in using DLT there. So maybe we will even grow further there and build up a global delivery team for DLT. So that is kind of the goal there. So, and when we think, okay, what is the key offerings of our company, we analyzed the 7 industries we are in and said, okay, for which industry DLT is super relevant. And the major industries are like manufacturing and logistics, life science and healthcare, and automotive and transportation for the use case, for example, traceability. That's like the logistic is no-brainer. Life science is super interesting because there are now more and more highly individualized treatments, and logistic and manufacturing kind of also a no-brainer. But these three use cases where digital identities often like goes hand in hand with trusted traceability, because if you track something, you want to kind of know who's responsible for each of the different steps in the record. And tokenization is kind of also a tool which sometimes is not connected to trusted traceability, but can be connected. If you track like physical goods, you really need to kind of digitalize it, make a digital twin. And at that point, you're already often using tokenization. So these three use cases are actually often also merged together. So, but why we talked about, or why is the topic of today is fees? It's super important. And for that, I want like to do a survey. I know there's a kind of delay in the stream, so maybe you could go to Menti and insert the code, and I will just wait a couple of minutes and hope that you guys are also participating. So just go on menti.com and use the shown code. And then the question is, why did you choose a specific DLT for your DApp? So I know today it's kind of like really IOTA based, the community here, but also in that regard, why you decided to maybe use IOTA for your distributed ledger project or your DApp. And you see there are a lot of different reasons for that. It could be technical documentation, so how easy it's to use this technology. It could be community. We in Germany have, for example, a huge IOTA community in there, and if you have like other communities, Hyperledger, for example, they don't really have. I didn't say that, but it's like not that open community, or they're not that engaged. And is it decentralization for or security and uptime? Track record I just read today is that Ethereum had an outage, 25 minutes, and but yeah.
Sorry,
So
just a little info maybe from the team. Could you maybe get rid of that small info down there, because
yeah,
it's perfect. Thank you very much. Now you can continue.
nice. Okay. Yeah. So, or technical maturity, and I see already some dots are coming in, and that's really cool actually. That so for you, community is important, but also costs, and that's is exactly the reason why I think it is super important to talk about it, because IOTA, for example, has this unique selling proposition in that regard. And that was actually also a reason for me to, yeah, kind of go deeper and dive deep in this technology. And here's maybe an example to get an even better understanding of it. So first of all, what types or what forms of fees are existing? So normally you have this transaction fee. That is a fee that is just paid to be included into the next block for as a normal transaction. So then you have gas fees, which are similar, but also are covering computational resources. For example, in Ethereum, it's other than like Bitcoin, you have smart contracts, and you pay actually the nodes for this computational work that they're doing, running this virtual machine or running this smart contract, and that's why you pay also gas fees. And then a third one is existing, which more in the way of sometimes private networks for example, Aurora or other private networks. So there you have to actually pay a fee to use it and be a part of it. So there are existing different kinds of fees. But in general, I guess you already kind of have a good understanding what is a fee. So you have to pay for it and you do not get it back. So we started to kind of or wanted to show or build up our knowledge and give customers or potential clients something in their hand and to get this feeling of trusted traceability or experience it. And there we had the idea of using or building a product that will show all the different, I would say, strengths of an DLT use case. And we had the idea to use bikes for it. Why bikes or e-bikes, and why not use cars? So with a car you have this ownership certificate where it shows you officially you are the owner of the car. Yeah, this car had 4 previous owners. You have a checkbook where the service workshop signed that they did the work on the motor probably, or did any other things. And you kind of then, if you sell the car, you can show, hey, I'm the owner of the car. It's not a stolen car. It's registered, and it's even like was treated well, and you can check that by looking through this checkbook and see the history and where it's been done, and if it's like he did it by himself or what it was an official repair station or whatever. So that's kind of the current situation for car, and it's kind of working. So we thought, okay, let's find something that where this kind of infrastructure is lagging. And we realized with the rise of e-bikes, like we started 3 years ago, kind of 2.5 years, like e-bikes were exploding. The market is, or the market went up quite a bit. So and they get extremely expensive. So sometimes you can buy a new e-bike for 15,000 euros, or sometimes even 20. It's crazy. So they get quite expensive. You can buy for that maybe 2 used cars or at least one good one. But they are lagging in all of these ownership certificates, and you kind of have to trust if you buy a bike from someone that's not a stolen bike. And I'm based in Hamburg, and in Hamburg is pretty often the case that the bike gets stolen, and then they take the bike and sell it in Munich because yeah, they're kind of this bike mafia roads, super crazy. And so if your bike gets stolen in Hamburg, you can set on eBay the location Munich and try to find your own bike there. Or but also if you then buy a new bike in Hamburg and you didn't found it there, you don't know if the bike actually belongs to someone else. And it's super hard to check that. So there are some where you can register your bike, but it's not commonly used, and it's kind of not interconnected with other things like insurances or whatever. So the idea was to develop a mobile app and use self-sovereign identity to kind of also and show that new type of identity and create for a bike a digital twin by using NFTs. And I can probably say that please visit the Eurobike in June, mid-June. There you can get a hands-on experience with this MVP, where we show how that works. So, but also for today, I kind of made a use case where we can see why fees have a huge impact. So first of all, whenever you track something, you have to create a digital twin. So let's start with that use case. We create a bike. So we add a new e-bike, maybe the bike manufacturer adds a new e-bike. Whoever creates it has to enter some data, then a target wallet, and then the e-bike is generated. So for that, we actually only need one transaction, minting the NFT. So in total, we have till now one transaction. And so what's then? Then you own that bike, but through this lifespan of owning a bike or through the next couple of years, you will have a shared history with this bike. Something will break, something will be replaced, or you have to fix something. So it could be that you need to change out the sensors of your e-bike, or you actually, I didn't know that before, but e-bikes have motor oil, tiny bit of it for the gears, but you have to also keep track of that, or you have to, I don't know, maybe some gears had a damage and need to be replaced. So before you want to sell your bike, we said, hey, maybe in total it could be like 8 incidents, or something needs to be added there. So you start with a fresh bike and then put a new entry. And the new entry can be that you did it by yourself, changed something, or a shop could, service station could say, hey, we changed out something. They will sign that transaction or confirm it. And then you say, okay, the brakes have been repaired. And so now you see this digital service book where you see, okay, the brakes were been repaired from the bicycle workshop. So again, one transaction, but we had like one previous transaction, and now for each of these history entries, we need another transaction. So 8 in total. Oh no, plus 8, 9 in total. So now the lifespan of your bike already kind of, or you just want to have a new bike and needs to, or want to, just have some new experience, maybe more power, or just got some kids and need to buy one of these super weird looking bikes, which has like also a trunk or to carry stuff around. So maybe you just need another bike. So what you want to do is first kind of sell the bike. But now, before you sell a bike, the guy who wants to buy your bike wants to verify that you're the actual owner. And that's type you exchange a verification code that shows that you are the actual owner of this wallet where the NFT lies. And this is a peer-to-peer communication, or it's more like checking on Tangle That's something where you do not need a specific transaction. So checking if this bike is like stolen, or if you are the real owner, that's not and does not need a separate transaction. So we still kind of 9 in total. But after this checking process, you say, okay, in this case, we kind of be old school and exchange fiat money, but we want to transfer then this ownership of this bike. So you share again and transfer the NFT, say it's a sale, it's a gift, whatever, to the next person. And there you go, slide to initiate transfer, and voila, there is now a new owner. So again, +1 transaction, so kind of a round number, 10 transactions in total. So, okay, so what does that mean in regarding of fees? So we have 10 transactions in total for this one use case. We could now choose different DLTs. We could choose Ethereum, where it's like $15 average. Now got again a little bit more expensive, but then for these transactions you would have to pay 154 euros. And then you have to think about, okay, is that use case brings you enough value to pay that? And it's an individual decision, but most people wouldn't do this extra work or for 154 euros. So you couldn't use Polygon, which is much cheaper, like 3.3 cents. On average, it actually can be also more expensive. So 10 transactions, 33 cents. That's actually not that much for transferring a bike. So that's kind of the edge already. You could say, okay, I see the value. I would pay 33 cents for having this digital service record, transferring the bike, setting up everything. So I would buy an app for, I don't know, €1 or I have to pay it via PayPal or whatever, or instantly through crypto, but I have to set up all the payment channel also for that. So there is also this topic of UX coming in. On IOTA, you actually have to pay also something. That's a storage deposit. On Shimmer, it's I converted it now, so roughly maybe 0.6 of a cent for creating the NFT, and then you can actually move it around as much you want. So that's kind of fixed there. Okay, so that's kind of cool. But now we have like 4.5 million bikes just sold in 2021. So what does that mean from moving from a proof of concept where you say, hey, yeah, 30 cents is kind of not a big deal, to industry adoption? So if you scale the numbers up, they're kind of huge. So of course, no one could deploy that on Ethereum. On Polygon, it would be also kind of hard to say, hey, I get all the people to pay for it, or could you as a company launch it and pay it up front and offer a free service? But it would be harder to do that. Or you as a company say, okay, we invest kind of roughly 30,000 euros to be able to bring it on the market and with a wide adoption rate. So that's like huge numbers. And in the industry, 4.5 million is not a big number. And we started with bikes because they're still kind of manageable. So maybe next question to you is, again, here, I said another one on cost, is question to you. If we want to track, for example, Epile pellets, that are these wooden pellets that are standardized and fitting perfectly on a truck, which and is holding normally maybe hundreds of goods or different from milk to industry product, like everything is standardized on these Epile pellets. So if we build a trusted traceability solution, it would maybe be an idea to track these pellets. Not to go that deep and track every good, because that would be even more complex, but maybe in the logistical part, just track this pallet. Where are they going? Who has them? What is on them? And so, question to you again: how much pellets do you think are in circulation currently in the EU? So we have already one vote there. Around 100 to 400 million, 400 to 600 million. Interesting. So that are quite big numbers actually. Like when you compare that to 4.5 million bikes sold every year, and yeah, we kind of have every answer now besides under 100 million. So I will wait another couple of seconds. But I'm really curious. Nice. So most of you think 400 to 600 million. Interesting. Even more. Okay. So it's really nice that no one or not all of you Googled it before. So the answer is that it's actually more than 650 million. So it's over 600 million. It's around 650 million. That's like the scope or the size of industry adoption. So here are some numbers where you can think about tracking stuff, because you often see proof of concept saying, hey, we're going to implement that and do trusted traceability on a global scale, track containers, how they travel around the world, or goods. And to just give you a perspective, we have 4.5 million bikes sold every year in Germany. And if we want to build a solution that can track all the goods around the globe, then just look at the numbers of containers, of pallets, of cars who transport the goods. They're kind of huge. So global amount is not completely right when like pallets in the EU and also trucks in the EU. So, but the containers are globally measured. So that is huge. And I leave it at that point to do then the math that, for example, for a container to track it from Africa to Rotterdam, then track what's inside or what different types of certifications you have to do or to kind of move it from one port to another. I can assure you, it's much more than 10. So the history of certifications is more like 50 to 80. So you not only have much more different stuff to track, but also much more transactions. This is this scalability thing that needs to be solved or tackled, and that's why fees are kind of really hard when you think about that. So that's to this. Now I want to kind of do a transfer to a completely different topic, but something where I thought, hey, that might be interesting too. So actually, we had in 10 years an adoption of social media. Now, even if you just look at the adults between 2020 to 2025, it's more than 95%. I guess everyone is using kind of a social media platform. And I ask myself, so why social media took off and OpenAI took off? So it's not OpenAI, but ChatGPT took off, and you have like things that were gain traction much faster than DLT. So what is lacking there? And then I asked myself, okay, how does it started? When I was in school back then, I had a mobile phone and I could write SMS. But for each SMS, I paid like 35 cents or something like that. And I only used it when it's really, really, really necessary. And I didn't chat it there. And there was like no groups where everyone posted memes or anything in it. And I thought, would you think that we had this type of adoption rate of the social media if you would have to pay for each message you send? So, and I leave it like open to think about that. My opinion is that maybe if we kind of reach on the other side the technical maturity in the UX, that you can actually use it really, really nicely, but then on the other side have kind of a feedless technology where you can kind of adopt it without paying, then it will take off. But until now, it's kind of difficult in the past, or was difficult in the past, because maybe fees are essential thing for adoption, but also the other points that I showed in the beginning, why you choose a DLT project. If you map it on not adoption, industry adoption, but on building a proof of concept, like only have 10 transactions, then you might go for technical maturity, documentation, or anything other points which enables you to build as fast as possible this proof of concept. A proof of concept cannot be that expensive. You kind of need to show an idea. So this aspect of serial production or industry adoption with cost is not the main point there. But that's also maybe, I think, the reason why you do not see that many proof of concept move to the industry, because they have to rethink everything and build a use case around it. But it's not that easy to have such a really, really, really strong use case where you say, okay, I'm willing to pay for each transaction. All right. So that's something to think about, and maybe it's now how we want to then set our strategy for DLT. So first of all, we decided it would be nice to be the main DLT service provider for leveraging or being the go-to first tier for adopting DLT. So that's where we said, okay, we need some knowledge to be able to do that. Second point is that we said, okay, we want to increase brand awareness, because normally we were kind of in the shadow, but we we realized that with Web3, it's more about community and community project which are organically growing, and it's not here that you kind of have an open offering that you write and people can bid on it, or companies will hand in some different offerings there. It's more about, because we are in this early stage where you kind of really work together. And that also brings me to the last point, where we think that these networks that we are building and with this partnership that we are also building is super crucial, because we cannot cover everything. We can be the first tier and use our already existing infrastructure that we have around the globe with our experts, and our also we're well positioned at the industry. But we have so many cool players in the ecosystem that can really do one specific task pretty well. That's why we think it makes sense to leverage them and give them the stage they need, and work together with them to deliver a complete project. So yeah, for example, quantum secure cloud storage. Holger mentioned that it's super hard to use decentralized storage. It can, maybe it is, so you should check out cloud, because we kind of have they have an interesting solution there. But also like Spice5, super important thing. Also now Cadre, something you can maybe look for in the future. That's a super interesting project or company there. But of course, the well-known players as Phil&Co, Impeers, Blockchain Lab Atlanta, with Energieknip, they're already kind of track proven, I would say, in the IOTA ecosystem. So yeah, that's where we say, okay, we want to build even more partnerships and connect, and yeah, that's kind of the goal. All right. I kind of rushed through the presentation, by the way. So maybe to that point, are there any questions? So I'm open for that one. I would just switch to this one and stop sharing. And yeah. All right. I can't hear you. Now I can hear you.
Oh,
Nice.
now you can hear me.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. I was just saying thank you very much for your presentation and the insights you've provided. A very cool idea, by the way, with the bike app that you've created. And I was just wondering, you mentioned that you are coming from an engineering background, right? From the aviation space with Airbus and stuff like that. I guess you are meaning more in the, how do you call it, machines and stuff instead of software, right? So I was just wondering, or I was curious, how did you go from that to IOTA, or how did you discover IOTA?
Super interesting story. So I had a journey from like really studying business engineering, so are able to assess business opportunities and have a general good understanding and a logical thinking how stuff works. So that's where I started, and then I kind of got in the niche in Airbus where we're managing the shop floor application. So everything which is built to kind of, or apps that are running there who are helping the production. And I thought there were like more than 100 apps that are currently used and need to be further developed and so on, and change from one system to another legacy, or from a legacy system to a new system. And that's where I get first in touch with IT and apps and how stuff is evolving and what is important and what are the problems between them and if you, I don't know, work with Oracle, at some point you maybe need a open source system could be better, or you're paying a lot of fees there. And parallel to that, as I said, I was always kind of curious in the DLT space. But at that point, I realized that we in the company has actually the capability to build something new and to build up this knowledge and to build use cases, because we already have the context to all these big players. We already positioned there. We just have to show them the solution they need. And I was in the beginning kind of naive. I thought everything is ready. I thought let's build, and then developer said to me, where's the documentation, and I guess we need smart contracts and NFTs, and I was like, oh, but and now we're really happy to see everything is evolving, everything is not starting to move, and I think it was the perfect timing with that we had there, because if you would invested like 3 years back and started, it was kind of hard to really build something. But now you can really build something and it works. And yeah, that's interesting. And as I said, it's super interesting to work with a young team together to kind of have this cool vibe of a startup in a big company. Because yeah, if you watch out for like experienced programmers, Web3 programmers, it's kind of hard to find anyone, because normally you look like 7 years of experience, but there is no 7 years of experience of IOTA. So it's super new, everything, and everyone is kind of exploring and building on the way. That's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, here at Byte 5, we had, I think, the exact same issues, right? But not so much with the Web3 people. Of course, I mean, how much experience can you really have with smart contracts? I think from 2017 until now. But I mean, like you were saying, so much evolved and changed over time. I mean, even IOTA right now with Akkodis side will flip the whole table around once more. So you need what I think not people with experience, but maybe people that are fast to adapt to new technologies and get to know how to use them. We, for instance, got to learn Rust, the in and outs of that technology, of that programming language within, what was it, 1 or 2 months, right? To directly talk with the IOTA APIs and create all this crazy stuff with WASM smart contracts that are still, well, I think in the future and might possibly, still be breaking, right? No documentation was a very big issue for us as well. We had so much headaches because we have to look everything up and maybe even chat with the Discord community. But that was also one of the cool aspects. We are not that big yet, but there are definitely people that are passionate about it and are ready to help. And I'm so thankful for the whole Discord, because I mean, without them, we would have run into a wall pretty early on.
That's so true. So Discord is helping us extremely, because like all the developers often like, even if you start with setting up everything and it's kind of not working, the nodes, or you want to run your own node or whatever, or it's kind of all there's a lot of struggle with it. So it's not like plug and play yet. But yeah, if you even learned Rust, so you're one of the few that is able to, or so there's so like there are not many Rust developers out there. So that's also something.
I mean, and it's even slimmer because we are speaking in Germany, right?
Yeah.
So maybe on a global scale you got a few, but in Germany,
it's like you have this much bubble with developers that everyone needs, so for the Web 2. But then you have like this small little bubble of Web 3 developers, and then you have like Germany and even like then finding Rust, and then people find people that are passionate about that and want to work with you. And so it's kind of really hard, but I guess the solution for that is, like I said in the beginning, to have really cool projects that have an impact and where people can have a vision about it and say, hey, for example, what's this energy knip of Adri, like e-voting at some point that could like change the world and you not need to recount something or whatever, and it's but it's like a huge task. It's like also not easy, but that's something where you can say, okay, if you look back, you can say, hey, I helped to implement and change the world, and that's not something that everyone can say. So that's why we do that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we are at the beginning and we have so many choices, options, and like we say, just because I think not only that, but the whole open source idea is just such a great thing because, yeah, like you're saying, maybe some things don't work out the way you want them to, or it's not plug and play yet, but you can just simply go in and do it yourself and then provide to the community, and then nobody has really any issues with those, right? So that's definitely also a thing that I'm very passionate about, that I like about the whole crypto movement or blockchain movement, so or DLT technology in general.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And as I said, so we're kind of open to help also like smaller projects. For example, we had CryptoGen who had like only 2 guys who said, hey, let's do something. Let's have a physical product tracked on the DLT. And yeah, we kind of also want to just help getting as much project out there as possible to just drive the adoption. So if you have a super cool idea and you say, hey, I don't know if I can go with that idea to such a big company, in the end we are all just people and boiling with water. So it's like, do not hesitate to just write me on LinkedIn or whatever, and we kind of figure out how we can make it happen. And yeah, so that's why I'm also really curious about Kadari, next big thing, I think. But yeah, so that will be cool.
Maybe to go on a topic we're just cutting in your presentation about transaction fees, right, or costs for the different chains that you mentioned. Maybe before I go into that, a little comment from Adri Wishman on that as well. And he says that transaction fees are a big reason why e-voting on blockchain is a big no-no. Imagine current fees for national election on Ethereum. This is why e-voting projects on IOTA, for example, are on his bucket list, for instance. Definitely, I mean, even if you go back and think about it, if you just want to have a little transaction, right? You want to buy a coffee with Ethereum, for example, right? Most of the time, you will be paying more money to actually get the token from A to B than you're actually paying for the coffee. So let's say you buy it for $1 worth of Ethereum, and then most likely the transaction, at least in your example that you provided, right, with the 150 euros, was it or so for 10 transactions, right?
Yeah.
It would still be around 30 euro for a simple transaction to buy a coffee. So $31 for a coffee, euros, whatever. That's pretty tough, actually. Yeah.
So yeah, and like Adri said, it's a kind of similar industry and elections, because you have like 650 million pellets you can track. maybe have less people that can vote, but in the end, it's still these kind of really big numbers where you can say, okay, it's kind of you need a solution which is feedless. It's like, yeah, no one. I wouldn't use WhatsApp or if I would need to pay for everything I post in a group or Telegram. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. I mean,
or
maybe on that front, you were talking about the storage deposit, right? That's like the only fee you are paying on IOTA. I was
not a
just
fee.
curious, not a
It's
fee.
not a fee.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're paying the storage deposit here.
yeah.
But I was wondering because you could basically free it up
Yeah,
after you're not longer using it, right?
it's like with the Epile pellet. So where you can buy it, I guess for I don't know if they changed the price, but it was like 15 or 20 euros, and you can move your goods around it, but you can also give it back. It's like and get the money again. So that's like the same thing with NFTs on layer one, where you can say, okay, I need them. I want to track something, but then at some point maybe get recycled or whatever, and then you say, okay, I don't need that NFT, that's storage anymore. I can burn it, and we'll get the storage deposit back. So it's kind of fair, and it's kind of fits also in this sustainable thinking, where you say, okay, I invest something, but if I don't need it anymore, I can give it back, recycle it, kind of thing. And yeah, that's why it makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting because it's not really like a payment structure, right? Where you pay it one time and lose it, but it's more like if you get a token, it's more like you have a piece of that whole infrastructure, right, from the ecosystem. Like for this case, it's storage, and you don't really have to pay any fees for that. I mean, it's like a complete no-brainer if Core decides, of course, will also play into our hands, right?
Yes. All
Do you
right.
guys have any plans on? All right. I mean, if you are done with the talk, or did you want
No.
to add something?
If you have anything,
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to ask if you have any plans for the future releases. Are you keeping up with them? Or keeping them back in your mind?
yes, that's actually kind of a tough thing to keep up in the crypto universe with all the releases and check out, okay, what is coming next. So we kind of reached now a decent level with Shimmer EVM testnet. So we're really happy to see that. And for our application where we track stuff, the e-bike, we actually didn't need the Shimmer EVM for that specific thing. When we are using in the future, I'll have more use case built on that where we kind of need smart contracts, then we will also use Shimmer EVM. Currently, we kind of are hybrid. The identities are on the IOTA mainnet. The NFTs are on a Shimmer L1. The smart contracts will be on layer 2. So it would be nice at some point to kind of have a solid mainnet where everything is running on. But I guess that's just the fun of the game. So and we got adopted to that situation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we even got some glimpses to assembly, right? Like we were saying, smart contracts on layer one would be pretty important, but not the main focus right now. First, we should be testing it out before we implement it to, maybe mitigate the risk of forking IOTA or something like that.
Yes.
But I think that would be it with the questions. Is there anything from your side that you want to let the people know before we transition to the next speakers?
Just always kind of if you have ideas, just hit us up, contact us. We need help with something, and yeah, or already have a solution, but needs to have context to the market. That's also something where we can help. And yeah, until then, we will just keep on going and hope maybe to have even bigger and global team next time on the TangleCon.
Definitely. I mean, we would be happy to see you here as well. So thanks again, Sebastian, for your talk. And I'm sure we will be doing some things in the future as well.
Nice. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See ya. Bye.